Eala, the phenomenon. We didn't know, largely, the tennis community a year ago before her run in Miami, and now it's must-see TV and drawing maybe the biggest crowds anyone outside of Alcaraz, Sinner, and the like.
She represents the Philippines, which is a country with more than 100 million people, but doesn't have a lot of history in tennis, and she's really leaned into it.
Tennis world stunned. Linz Open gets exposed for blocking Alex Eala's Filipino army. The Linz Open just made it onto every Filipino tennis fan's radar, and not for the reason tournament organizers would want.
These tournaments are such great experiences for me, especially playing in front of the best crowd ever. And
after Alex Eala's Miami Open exit last week, the clay season officially opens in Austria on April 6th, and the tennis world is stunned at what's waiting for her there. A design center with roughly 3,000 seats. No contingency, no overflow plan, no acknowledgement whatsoever of what this player brings through the gates.
Of course I have, because like I said, I've been coming here for 20 years, and at the beginning of the tournament, I think they had to get people in here to watch.
At the Australian Open, organizers put her on a court built for fewer than 1,500 people. Tennis journalist Jose Morgado called it publicly just dumb, and the queue of Filipino army members stretched beyond what the venue could physically absorb. Dubai's tournament director confirmed the stadium sold out for every single one of her matches, with fans unable to get in despite desperately trying. Indian Wells packed stadiums past midnight for a second-round match, and yet here comes Linz, walking straight into the same wall with half the capacity of those venues, and apparently no awareness of the pattern. There's no memo, no printed ban, no official policy blocking her fans. The building is doing it instead. A sport that keeps scheduling its most culturally electric player into venues built for a quieter era deserves every question coming its way. Subscribe for coverage that asks what tournament directors refuse to answer publicly. The full structural breakdown of how this keeps happening and what it costs Eala on the court starts. The pattern started in Melbourne. When the Australian Open draw was released in January 2026, Alex Eala's first-round match against Alicia Parks was assigned to Court 6, a mid-sized arena at Melbourne Park with a capacity of fewer than 1,500 spectators. Tournament officials made that decision based on rankings, seeding, and the standard scheduling logic that has governed Grand Slam court assignments for decades. What they did not factor in was the mobilization capacity of an entire diaspora.
When did you realize you were representing something much bigger?
In Melbourne, I saw a couple clips of the lines and the people.
I think the international interest in both of them is so high, and quite a thrill ride for her this last year as well, after she had some great results.
By the time Eala walked onto that court, the queue outside had grown so long that hundreds of fans were physically turned away. The people who did get in made enough noise for 10 times their number. Noise directed at points won, errors committed, double faults struck, creating a soccer stadium atmosphere inside a tennis venue that had never experienced anything remotely close to it. Opponent Alicia Parks won the match, but she was visibly rattled from the opening game. Parks admitted afterward that the crowd was something she had never encountered in professional tennis. She said she was expecting it, but wasn't truly prepared for it, and that the noise in the first set directly affected her focus. The umpire intervened multiple times. The debate that followed spilled across social media for days, not just about etiquette, but about whose version of passion gets to be considered acceptable inside a tennis stadium. That debate never really ended. It followed Eala to Dubai the following month. At the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships in February, the situation escalated in a way that tournament organizers could not have anticipated and could not ignore. Eala reached the quarterfinals, defeating Sorana Cirstea in the third round in a match that became its own controversy. A large section of her fan base cheered missed first serves, unforced errors, and double faults from Cirstea, behavior that drew repeated intervention from the chair umpire and generated another wave of international media coverage. The broader tennis public was divided. Critics argued that Eala's fans were undermining the respect that professional tennis is built on. Defenders countered that new fans bring new energy, and that the sport's traditional etiquette standards were never designed with a global, multicultural audience in mind. What was not? In dispute was the attendance data. Dubai's tournament director Salah Talak went on record confirming that the stadium was sold out for every single one of Eala's matches. Fans who had purchased tickets in advance watched her matches. Fans who had not were turned away at the gates. Talak stated directly that the tournament had never seen anything like it, and that Eala had attracted an entirely new demographic to the sport. The building was full. The demand outside the building was larger than the building itself.
A perfect finish, really well constructed point again. Left Baptiste guessing which way the last ball was going.
Tournaments are such great experiences for me, especially playing in front of the best crowd ever. And
I'm really happy to advance to the next round. Obviously, it's not in the way I wanted.
Coco Gauff, who defeated Eala in that Dubai quarterfinal, addressed the crowd after the match. Gauff acknowledged that the stands were filled almost entirely with fans supporting her opponent, and rather than criticize the atmosphere, she thanked Eala for bringing a new demographic into the sport.
I know you were mostly supporting Alex, but I have to say it is great to be on a crowded court. I've played this tournament for many years, and to see the stadium full, it means a lot.
For Gauff, a player who has been a fan favorite at tournaments across the world for years, to spotlight Eala's fan base rather than the result was not a small gesture. It was a data point, the kind of data point that tournament directors at smaller venues should have been paying close attention to. Indian Wells in March confirmed what Dubai had already established. Eala made her debut at the BNP Paribas Open, one of the most prestigious non-Grand Slam events on the tennis calendar, and what unfolded there was documented by journalists, broadcasters, and executives in a way that left no room for misinterpretation. Practice sessions drew crowds comparable to those watching Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, and Venus Williams warm up. The second-round match against Diana Yastremska ran for 2 hours and 43 minutes, the longest match of the day, finishing close to midnight in the California desert. The stadium remained filled throughout. Fans in winter coats and blankets stayed in their seats past midnight to watch a second-round match involving a player ranked outside the top 30. Filipino flags were visible across the stands. A Laban Alex sign, meaning Fight Alex in Tagalog, was in the front row. BNP Paribas Open executive Philippe Doré told Front Office Sports plainly, "We love every minute of it, we benefit from it, we promote it." The tournament posted a day-in-the-life video featuring Eala that became the most-watched content of the entire 2026 Indian Wells event by a significant margin. The pre-tournament press conference at the Australian Open had already pulled six-figure YouTube views, dwarfing the view counts of Alcaraz and Djokovic. A player ranked number 29 at the time was generating the kind of digital engagement typically reserved for world number ones. That is the force now heading to Linz. Over 1.7 million people of Filipino heritage live in California alone, according to Front Office Sports. Beyond American shores, Filipino communities stretch across Europe, the Middle East, and East Asia, a diaspora that does not follow tennis the way traditional tennis audiences follow tennis. It follows Eala the way a nation follows its flag at the Olympics, with an intensity that transcends sport and operates at the level of collective identity. The Design Center Linz is a modern exhibition and event venue in central Austria. This is its third consecutive year as a WTA 500 event, and the first year it will be played on clay. Configured for tennis, the main show court accommodates approximately 3,000 spectators. That figure is not a criticism of the venue. For a WTA 500 tournament in a mid-sized European city, it is a perfectly adequate facility. The problem is not the building's quality, the problem is the arithmetic. A venue built for 3,000 people cannot serve a fan base that sold out a stadium in Dubai across multiple match days and overflowed a Grand Slam outer court in Melbourne. The math does not work. No amount of goodwill from tournament organizers changes the physical ceiling of the Design Center's main hall. Eala enters the tournament ranked number 45, having dropped 16 places following her fourth-round exit at the Miami Open, where she lost to world number 14, Karolina Muchova. She arrives as an unseeded direct entry. The 8 seeds at Linz are Alexandrova, Tauson, Samsonova, Ostapenko, Navarro, Raducanu, Cirstea, and Christian. She is making her debut at this tournament, as is Emma Navarro. The clay surface adds another layer of complexity. Eala has said herself that clay is the surface with the most room for improvement, and this Linz edition marks the first time in her WTA career that she will compete on indoor clay at this level. Her 2025 clay season produced a 2-4 win-loss record across 4 tournaments, including a first-round exit at Roland Garros. Coming in without a seeding on an unfamiliar surface at a venue she has never played before, the competitive challenge alone is significant. But the competitive challenge and the crowd challenge are not separate stories. They are the same story. During the US Open in 2025, playing in Queens, near a neighborhood with a large Filipino community, Eala credited the crowd directly for helping her through her historic first Grand Slam main draw victory. The Indian Wells post-match presser told the same story. She said it meant the world to have her community behind her in such a prestigious setting, and that their willingness to stay in the cold past midnight added to the emotions of the win. The relationship between Eala and her fanbase is not decorative. It is structural to how she performs at her best. Stripping that element away, or more precisely, capping it at 3,000 seats, changes the competitive environment she walks into. That is what makes the Linz Open situation more than a logistical inconvenience. It is a compression of everything the tennis world is stunned by in 2026. A player whose cultural footprint has grown faster than the infrastructure around her, entering a venue whose walls will turn away her Filipino army through the simple, indifferent fact of finite space, malice not required, policy not needed, the building doing the blocking on its own. The Australian Open had the option to move her to a larger court after the Court 6 situation became undeniable. Grand Slams have that flexibility. A WTA 500 event at the Design Center does not carry the same architectural options. There is one main show court. Whatever happens there, happens within those walls.
We're not concerned about anyone else right now. It's Alex Eala time. This is Alex Eala's moment. Our days, our dinners, our evenings are fixated on when she's playing. That's real tennis fandom right there. Love it.
This is so great for tennis in general.
Yeah.
I think having players like Alex out there, and she's so gracious to all her fans. She spends time with her fans, signs the autographs, takes the photos, and really just shows the Filipino community that it is all about the Philippines. And I still carry that flag with me no matter where I go across the world.
Jose Morgado called the Australian Open's scheduling decision just dumb. Djokovic called the broader situation a good problem for tennis to have. Both assessments are correct simultaneously. It is a good problem in the sense that demand exceeding supply is a sign of genuine cultural relevance. Dumb describes what happens when the sport's operational infrastructure has had multiple consecutive opportunities to adapt, has watched the same scenario play out across Melbourne, Dubai, and Indian Wells, and walks into Linz having made no visible structural adjustment. The WTA does not assign players to tournaments. Eala chose to enter Linz, as players self-select their schedules within the constraints of the tour calendar. But the tour's broader responsibility to its most commercially significant emerging player involves more than accepting her entry form. It involves anticipating what she carries through the gate with her. What the Linz Open gets exposed for is not hostility, it is unpreparedness, a structural passivity dressed as neutrality, in a sport that has been given every possible signal that this moment was coming and chose to treat it as someone else's problem to solve. The clay season has started. Thousands of members of the Filipino army are already heading to Austria, and the Design Center's 3,000-seat ceiling will meet them at the door. Whether that ceiling bends under the weight of what Eala has become, or simply holds firm while the queues build. Outside, the rest is just arithmetic. If this breakdown gave you something that the match highlights never will, a real understanding of what is actually at stake in Linz beyond the scoreline, then subscribe to this channel right now. Every week, this channel goes deeper than the surface narrative, straight into the structural forces shaping professional tennis in 2026. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. And if this video opened your eyes to the Eala phenomenon in a way that mainstream coverage has not, share it with the tennis fan in your life who thinks they already know the full story. Because the clay season is just beginning, and the conversation around Alex Eala is about to get louder than any 3,000-seat venue can contain.